Hello and welcome to Throttle Up. Now the Scorpio N might have taken the center stage, but let's not forget the OG. Yes, this is the Scorpio Classic, which has been now relaunched after the launch of Scorpio N, but at its core it's very much similar to the Scorpio that we have been seeing over the last few years. There are some changes in the exterior and the interior which we'll talk about in this video, but the key takeaway is that this muscular rugged design, which has been a favorite of Indians for the past 2 decades, it's still there, and rightly so. I understand why Mahindra is continuing this design and has rebadged it as the Scorpio Classic. While the Scorpio N is more modern and classier, the Scorpio Classic stays true to its legacy and its name by retaining that raw and aggressive nature which we have been seeing in Scorpios since forever. This classic version of the Scorpio is available in only two trims, namely S and S11, but both the variants get only one engine and one transmission option, which is a 2.2 diesel manual. So no petrol engine options, no automatic option, and it does not even get any option for a four-wheel drive. So in case you want any of those options, you would have to switch to the Scorpio N and look away from the Scorpio Classic. The one we have today is the topmost S11 2.2 diesel manual because that is the highest that you can go. Now opening the engine bay, the first thing that I noticed is that it gets hydraulic struts, which you do not even get in the topmost variant of the Scorpio N. So that is a really nice touch. A lot of insulation on the bonnet, and it's a really heavy one since this is a Mahindra. As for the specifications, this 2.2 diesel produces a maximum power of 132 horsepower and a maximum torque figure of 300 Newton meters. Although this engine should suffice, but my problem is that there was a four-wheel drive and an automatic version available on the previous Scorpios. But discontinuing that entirely in the Scorpio Classic means that they are trying to push the Scorpio N and retaining it just for the rural markets which are still a fan of this design. Now talking about the design, you get an updated front 7-slat grille which you did not get in the previous Scorpios. So the grille has been updated with this slanting plastic to make it look close, but it's still open to provide ventilation for the engine. It gets the updated Mahindra badging as well. Now you get air dam with a silver finish for the skid plate, which looks really nice and adds to that imposing look of the Scorpio. The other change is in the headlamp, where you get a halogen projector now instead of the simple halogen lamp, and so this is how it looks like when it's lit up. The DRL in the headlamp looks like an eyebrow and it's very broad and sort of a tubular format. You get the halogen projector, halogen reflector for the high beam, halogen for the turn indicator, so there is no twinning function with the DRL for the turn indicator, halogen fog lamp, and there is this another DRL which is still LED. So a mix of halogen and LED. So LED is just for DRLs, but then other unit is completely halogen. Now the front profile is imposing just like always, and I am a fan of this design. Now you also get this air intake scoop, which is a signature of the Scorpio, but it's not functional, it's just for the aesthetic purpose. But honestly, I'm not complaining since this is a signature of the Scorpio. The previous ones got the intercooler engine, so that's where the air scoop was required, but now since this is the new engine, you do not actually require the air intake. But I'm still impressed that they kept it to enhance the design of the front profile. Now looking at the side profile, you do see the side cladding which has Scorpio written all over it, but before that, the length of the Scorpio Classic is 4456 mm and the wheelbase is 2680 mm. The height being 1995 mm, which gives it a very tall stance. Now for the individual elements, you get body color door handles which do not get any request sensor, which feels like a miss, but I'll still forgive them because they are branding it as a classic car, so the tech features will always be on the lower side. Now you get this kind of treatment for the D pillar, not even the C pillar actually. There's the roof rails which are functional and get the black color overall, so there's no chrome or silver usage. There's no shark fin antenna either and no sunroof also. So you have to upgrade to the Scorpio N if you want all of that. There's a side step which is much needed in this car, and this door cladding which has Scorpio written over it. Now the ORVMs are body colored, but the indicator is on the fender with this boomerang kind of silver design, and there's no puddle lamp or blind spot camera on the ORVM. Now this is a 17-incher with a tire profile of 235/65 R17. The alloy design is completely new as what we saw on the previous generation of the Scorpio, and it looks genuinely good. It has this dual tone effect as well. Now for the tire profile, I'm a bit disappointed. I wanted more of the tire width because this is the Scorpio and wider tires would have provided better grip, and also even the design would have been really enhanced. But apart from that, the side profile looks really good, and much like the Scorpio, It retains every bit of that aggressiveness and that bold, chunky SUV feel. Now the lid that you see on the right is not for the diesel, it's actually for the AdBlue or the diesel exhaust fluid. The fuel lid is on the left hand side of the car. Now coming to the rear profile, the first thing that I notice is the reintroduction of those tower-like reflectors which we had in the Scorpio many years ago, and since they are branding it as the Classic, it completely makes sense for them to do that. And I'm genuinely not complaining, it's actually a good reintroduction of those reflectors. Now for the features, you get a rear washer and wiper, rear defogger, and a stop lamp which is on the smaller side. It also gets this integrated spoiler design with the washer on the center of it. So that was for the features. In terms of design, there's this gloss black grille with the new Mahindra badging in the center, so it adds to the contrast with the body color, so I really like that. Scorpio Classic badging with S11, since that's the name of the variant, with micro hybrid badging as well at the bottom right. So for the tail lamp, it says Scorpio right in the center and gets this inverted D treatment like in the previous Scorpio. Now the inverted Ds get LED treatment, but the turn indicator and the reverse light housed between those Ds get the halogen treatment. So that is kind of weird. That's the turn indicator, that's the reverse lamp. This is the reflector, which is the spiller format, which is sort of a comeback which it has made coming from the previous generations of Scorpio. Now this is how the entire rear profile looks like, and I really like that. It also gets a side step to actually get into the back seat of the car, which I'll talk about in just a bit. You get reflectors on both the sides of that bumper, which is body colored, rear parking sensors as well. The rear exhaust is just one on the right side, so no fake exhaust treatment, and the fifth wheel is also at the bottom, so that actually adds to the inconvenience. But when we open the boot, we realize there's no space to keep the fifth wheel actually inside, so that is why it's on the bottom. Opening it, the first thing that we obviously realize that it opens to the side like in the previous Scorpios and not at the top. The handle is not placed in the tailgate itself, and it's weirdly placed right here. Super random, super inconvenient, and I would have rather appreciated a door handle on the tailgate itself to open that tailgate. Now in order to tumble down the third row, you have to press down this lever and you have to simultaneously press it on the other side as well. So I'm not able to do that because my one hand is engaged obviously, but in order for you to do that, you will have to use both your hands to press that lever down, rather two levers down, to actually tumble down that seat, which is to me a very big inconvenience given this day and age where everyone's giving just one lever where the manual seat just tumbles down automatically. So that is a bit of a problem. Now onto the second row. The finish on the door is almost entirely plastic apart from just few bits. This is plastic, this is gloss black, but it's still plastic. That base plastic is in texture, that's fabric, and this is again plastic, and that design is not too appealing. Even the bottle holder is very small. This grab handle that you see in the black, it's very non-premiumish, it's very basic. The door handle is super duper flimsy to use. I do not like that one bit. This is just some space to keep your phone maybe, and that is the power window button. This is gloss black, which still at least adds to the contrast of that beige door pad. So that's just one saving grace. Now the Scorpio Classic gets 3 seating configurations, 2 for 7 seats and 1 for 9 seats. This one is the 2-2-3 seating configuration, which gets the captain seats. The second one for the 7 seat configuration is the 2-3-2, where the last row gets 2 seats on either sides, a single seater. And the 9-seater is 2-3-4, where the third row gets 2 seats on left and right, but those can occupy 2 people on the single side seat. So that is how it becomes a 9-seater. As for the leg room, it is amazing, and I can obviously adjust the captain seat according to my liking, so there's no shortage of leg room whatsoever. The thigh support is amazing. The backrest can obviously be adjusted to my own liking. So it's a very comfortable place to be in, this captain seat of the second row. Very impressed by the amount of cushioning that they have done. Their adjustable headrests, even the armrest is there also, which is obviously adjustable according to the liking of the passenger. So you get armrest, adjustable headrest, adjustability for the position and the backrest of the car. So very nice place to be in. If you want to be seated in the Scorpio, this is the seat to be in. As for the individual features, they are not cup holders. There's just some space in the center console to keep your stuff, but you obviously can't keep any bottles or cups. 2 AC vents which do not have any silver or chrome garnish. Grab handles which are fixed. So that is it for the features. So premiumness is lacking, but the comfort is a 10 on 10. Now let's make our way to the third row, which will be a hassle, but still less of a hassle because it is a captain seat. Now you can see how cramped I am, but you can create a decent amount of space by pushing those second row seats a little bit to the front. The grab handles are there, but there's no AC vent, there's no speaker, there's no USB socket, no cup holder, nothing of that sort on either sides. There's just one cabin lamp which I'll actually sacrifice to have an AC vent or some cup holder, because it will be really problematic for the people in the third row. The only respite is that you get adjustable headrests which are actually very comfortable, but apart from that, there's nothing absolutely. As for the space also, there could have been a decent amount of space even though the second row is pushed at the back, but still, it's best for adolescents or kids at best, because adults would not be comfortable in the third row no matter how much you push those two seats in the second row to the front. So that is going to be a problem. But what is not a problem is getting in and out as compared to a seat which is fixed and closed on the second row. As I mentioned, there's also a magazine holder with this cut to keep your phone, so that is the ergonomic feature that you get, but you obviously do not get any cup holders and any magazine tables or any food tables, so that's a miss, and they could have given that on the Scorpio. That is a fuel lid which is circular, just like the Scorpios over the last 2 decades. So the fuel lid, as I mentioned, is on the left and the AdBlue lid is on the right. So that is how it works. It says Mhawk right there because that is the Mhawk 2.2 liter diesel engine. Now heading to the front and commenting about the back 2 rows, the second row is a delight to be in, but the third row is going to be problematic, no questions asked. Now this gloss black treatment is still consistent fabric, but entire thing is still plastic, and you also get a string in the bottle holder, but the bottle holder is very narrow, so much so that I do not think any cups or bottles can be kept there, only some documents and some dusting cloth and all. Now this very flimsy door handle, which I really hate. The driver adjustability is manual, so no electrical adjustment on offer. This lever that you see is for the height adjust, and the back lever that you see is to adjust the backrest of the driver's side. So no electrical adjustment. I was not expecting that either because it's a classic Scorpio. 3 pedals, since this is only offered in a manual. That's the lever to open your bonnet. That's not actually the lever, you have to put your hand at the back of that plastic to open it, so that's very inconvenient. As for the controls, this is for the defogger, that's for opening the fuel lid, that's for the headlight leveler, and this knob is to electrically adjust the outside rear view mirrors of the Scorpio. You do not get any engine start stop button, and the only buttons which are placed on the door are the power window buttons, with the only feature is that the auto up and down is only for the driver's side. Now let's get into the car. The ingress is a bit on the tougher side since this is a really tall car and there are no grab handles either on the A-pillar, so that actually makes things a bit tougher. Thank God they have given the side step, otherwise it would have been a really difficult task to get into any of the seats of the Scorpio Classic. Since it does not get any engine start stop button, I'll have to put the key physically in to start the ignition of the car, and as soon as I start the ignition, the instrument cluster lights up in blue and does a full swipe up, so that's nice. It does get 2 proper dials for the speedometer and the tachometer, and I'm very okay or rather neutral with the design of this cluster because it's neither too impressive and nothing that I can actually complain about either. The only thing that I can complain about, and I will complain about, are these 2 knobs. Why is this simple MID not operable by the steering wheel? Why give this 2 stupid sticks to operate the odometer and to reset it? So that is kind of strange. Even though it's a 15.5 lakhs ex-showroom car, I still have to do that, which is not done. The steering is super duper chunky. I like how great it is to hold, and this gloss black finish for the third spoke is very nice. You get infotainment buttons on the left side and the cruise control button on the right, so you do get cruise control, which you can obviously operate from the steering wheel itself. The steering wheel is adjustable for tilt but not for telescopic. Again, a huge problem, and you actually don't get that because it is the topmost variant, so you would not get that. Now this is how the dashboard looks like. The positioning of the touchscreen is really weird to say the least. It reminds me of the Duster in fact, because it's so down low, it's not floating at all. You get buttons which are not haptic, or they do not provide any feedback whatsoever, and they're on just the left side, not on the right side, so that triggers my OCD. They are not symmetric at all. The interface is very 2010ish. It seems like it's supported by the very older version of the Android, and it's very basic to look at. The touch is decent at best. It's not very fluid, but it's not even something that you would complain about that it does not respond. It does respond. See, the touch is responding. It obviously will respond, but it's not even laggy, just like we find in the Tata for that matter. Now it does get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, Bluetooth, the media settings, radio, and all of that. They're basic settings. And if you go into settings, it reminds me of that Android settings interface. So even the Android phones that come right now, the setting app exactly looks like this. So if you go in the car settings, you get the brake setting, reverse trajectory, reverse line, ruler, and all of that. But again, if you look at those settings and the interface overall, it is very much like the Android phones, and it's not very classy to look at. Now the AC vents get chrome surrounds and is housed in a very tall dashboard. Even the dashboard is not that deep. You get chrome surrounds on those AC vents, which are very quadrilateralish, very simple to look at. You get buttons for the climate control. There is climate control obviously, and this gloss black pillars across that AC controls and the infotainment, which reminds me of the Fortuner to some extent. Now you get the auto start stop enabler button, which has the blue light, hazard lamp button, and this is a brown, very dark wood finish, which houses the USB port. Let my camera just focus on it, and yes, that's the aux port, some space to keep your stuff, and a USB port. So there's no type C. There's also a 12-volt socket, but that 12V is written in a very weird kind of format. It does not look very classy at all. And then there's nothing classy about this car. Everything's very rugged. Now you get a skid mat of sorts to keep your phone maybe, and there is some space to keep your stuff. There is no cup holder, which is a really weird thing to do. This is some space at the back, and there is this two cup holder kind of like design, because there's no center armrest because there are these two foldable armrest of sorts attached to either seats, manual handbrake, so no electric parking handbrake, leather finish for the gear knob, and a very ordinary looking gear knob, so nothing very fancy about it. But the center console armrest is a big miss ergonomically. That is something that is just bugging me. Now the glove box has this gloss back treatment and is finished in plastic and has a decent space on offer. Hard plastics across the dashboard, no leather use at all. There's also a Scorpio badging on the left, which is still plastic, but it has this very blingy silver finish of sorts, but it's still plastic material nonetheless. Now the dashboard and the infotainment and the AC controls, everything is very conventional to look at. Nothing fancy about this design overall. It does get this beige and black treatment, which does enhance the appeal of the car. The interior actually, do not get any auto dimming IRVM. There's this day night feature, simple. Sunglass holder, no sunroof whatsoever, even though this is the top model. And this cabin lamp is something that I really do not appreciate. One, because it's halogen. Second, because it's very basic. Does not provide a lot of illumination and it's not good to look at. Again, look at the alignment of those vanity mirrors on the co-driver sun visor. There's none on the driver side, but the size and the alignment just feels odd. There's no seatbelt adjustable headrest. Bolstering is very nice. The seats are really comfortable. I have to give it to Mahindra, because if you're looking for comfort, this car would check the box. Definitely beat whatever seat you are seated in. So that is a plus in the Scorpio Classic. Now it does get all the features as I have just covered. The only thing is that none of it feels premium, nothing at all. You talk about door handles, the infotainment, the plastic, the dashboard appeal, the look, the instrument cluster having no MID, the steering wheel finish, the buttons on the steering wheel, the gear knob, the missing center console armrest. There's nothing premium about this, and I think the target audience is also looking for nothing premium, because if they would rather opt for the Scorpio N, which has a lot of premium bits, mind you. So this is targeted to a very specific audience, which is indeed looking for functionality over form, because it does deliver on the road presence, the power, and even the features. It does get the features, just that there's nothing feel good about it. But it's not that you would miss any features, so to say. And it does deliver on the aggressive, raw, masculine appeal, which Scorpio obviously has over the past 2 decades. Now, if you want to buy one and have the access to this key fob right here, this would cost you around 15.5 lakh rupees ex showroom, so it would almost be around 17 lakhs ex showroom. Now in that price you have 3 options. One, to go for this car if you're looking for a proper big size SUV which fulfills your power needs and this amazing road presence which Scorpio already has. Second is to go for the Scorpio N if you're looking for this premium feel and a long list of features which you wouldn't get in this car. Also, the Scorpio N does come in a 4x4, which is expensive than this car obviously, and also gets the automatic transmissions which this car doesn't. Third is to go for other brands which are offering not full size SUVs in this price segment, but you do get mid size SUVs like the Creta or the Seltos. But when it comes to delivering the build quality, a monstrous 2.2-liter diesel, and a car which can take you anywhere without any hassles and is a no nonsense SUV, this car is it. When they say Scorpio Classic, they mean that. There are no feel good or blingy features which you don't even need in the first place, but what you get is a proper SUV experience with a very capable engine and amazingly high road presence. So this was a review of the newly launched Mahindra Scorpio Classic. Do let me know in the comments whether would you go for the Scorpio N or the Scorpio Classic, and even if you would go for some other brand altogether and buy a mid-size SUV in place of a full-size SUV. Like this video to show some love and also to help the algorithm a little bit so that it reaches to more people. Subscribe to our channel because that is the only way I can know that you really appreciate my content. Do drop a comment as to what do you think was good or bad about this review. Thanks for watching. Throttle up.